Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for another episode. We are here. We are at the finale. It's it. This is the end. New York Giants hard knocks the offseason with the New York Giants. It has been an absolute pleasure. I think the fact that the New York Giants got this first means that nobody will ever get the access that from Hard Knocks that the Giants gave. Like people, I think more people will be more guarded, will be more measured in how they give up the access for this thing. I think that it's been brilliantly done. I think that it's been really cool to watch. I think that what we've seen, right? What we've seen out of this Hard Knocks is that there's going to be a lot of people. Well, not really a lot of people. Joe Shane, really. We're going to see where he made the mistakes and where he made the correct moves, right? Like, because we know behind the scenes the thought process, because we know behind the scenes what was going on, what went into the decisions that were made, because we know that, we're going to be able to assess whether or not he did good or bad at his job with actual legitimate information. Like, if you think about what we normally do is we normally put up the moves of the GM based off what we think we know, right? Based off what we think we know, based off of what we would do if we were in that situation. That's how we normally would attack, right? How we judge the general manager, because we've never been inside, right? Like, we don't know what he was really thinking, but now we do, right? So here's the beautiful part about it. He didn't pay Saquon Barkley because I believe based off what he said, he believes that he can get similar production as Saquon Barkley out of Devin Singletary. Cool. You know what he did to make himself right? He improved the offensive line and is continuing to improve the offensive line. So now, if Devin Singletary doesn't do well, it is an absolute and positive miss on Saquon Barkley. But if Devin Singletary runs for 1,000 yards, doesn't have to really be a great year. He just has to run for 1,000 yards, right? Because Saquon ran for 900 and something last year. He was out for, I think, a game, maybe two with injuries. Their offensive line was a sieve. The only time people ever seem to talk about it is when they talk about the quarterback position, but clearly it matters for running back as well. And he only ran for 900 and something yards. But if you look at his carries, he only ran 900 and something yards. He only had 200 and something carries. Was his yards per average great? Nope. But why would his yards per average be great when you know what type of offensive line he was dealing with, right? But it doesn't matter because perception is reality. So if Devin Singletary goes out there and puts up a 900 plus yard season, he's going to be able to justify not paying Saquon Barkley. Never mind that if Saquon Barkley was behind this improved offensive line, that he might have a season very similar to 2022, where he was one of the best running backs in the league, right? So we get a chance to see all of that in real time. And make sure, by the way, if you're watching, make sure you're leaving comments. As we get started, we're going to watch this thing together. We're going to watch this final episode together. I am really, really excited because I'm like, we get closure, we get finality. And the funny part is this isn't the end. This is actually the beginning, right? This episode represents everything that we're seeing right now, like come into play. Like everything that we see, everything that's going on right now, that is what this episode is going to leak out into. Once Hard Knocks is over, we are back to the present. Because there's real legitimate practices going on, I bet you don't even see as many people talking about Hard Knocks as they've been talking about Hard Knocks in the past. Why? Because there's real football going on. We can see it. But I know that many of you out there are still interested in what's going on. I'm still interested in what's going on. And so we get a chance to look at this thing together, right? We get a chance to look at this thing one last time. Like one more time, one more again, one last hurrah. Like all of the things, you know. And we really get a chance to see how this thing is going to play out. I think it's great. But again, we get a chance to see how how the moves of Joe Shane work out. Like we get a chance to see in real time if the moves that he made, excuse me, I've got cords all over the place right now. The moves, we get a chance to see that the moves that he makes, are they moves that were for the betterment of the team, right? Did they end up making the team better? Were they moves that made it possible for him to make other moves, right? Like if the run game is worse, cool. But if paying the money that you could have paid to Saquon netted you paying for the offensive line additions, and because of that, the pass protection is better, is that a win? I say yes, right? Now, I also say you probably could have done both, right? You probably could have done both, but that's just me saying it. Like, I don't know. Like, there would have had to been some maneuvering, but I think you could have gotten both done. You could have secured Saquon Barkley and also at the same time acquired 2 tackles. Why do I think that? Because they signed a lot of people. They signed a lot of bodies to contracts that I guess if they're going to cut people, all that money won't matter, but still they signed them, right? So as we get ready to roll into this last episode, we get a chance to see the fruits of their labor in the draft. We get to see everything come together. But I've really enjoyed watching the camaraderie on behind the scenes. Right, I think that's been the best part for me. I still don't believe that Hard Knocks has made Joe Shane look the best. I think Hard Knocks has painted, and maybe not even painted, right? Because painted means that they may have made him look this way when he really doesn't deserve to look this way. I think this is he has come out and said, "Hey, no, this is what happened." So we have to take him on his word, right? We got to take him on his word that if this is what happened, then you know, that's what's going on. All right, we've got episode 5 up. Let's check it out together. And of course, you know, like always, leave a comment. We gotta sit through the commercials because we're not paying extra money for non-commercials. When most of the time the commercials are just 30 seconds and then they let us rock. So if you don't have Max and you're not able to watch Hard Knocks, then just listen in to us and get on the chat, get in the comments. Leave a comment. Make sure that you're hanging out. People are talking and people will give you their opinion. And then obviously after it's over with, it'll be somewhere up for somebody to see somewhere. You just can't see it here because we're trying to keep our channel as clean as possible. All right, here we go. Hey, by the way, while they're going through the recap, make sure y'all check out. Like, I don't have them available yet, but let me move this microphone aside so y'all can see for yourselves. That Giant Issue podcast t-shirt. Make sure that you are locking in with the Giant Issue every day. We appreciate it making us 30 minutes out your day. We've had great responses. We've had great feedback. I hope that I'm giving you a perspective that doesn't sound like the perspectives of every other person that talks about New York Giants. I hope I'm giving you a different way to think about things. And if not, then talk to me. What do you want to hear? Like, I don't want to tell you what you want to hear, but if there's topics that you're interested in that you don't think people are talking enough about, then let me know and I'll talk about it. Because that's what a Giant Issue is supposed to be about. It's about having the issue and talking about that issue. So remember in episode 4, we left off at the draft, right? So draft day 1, we come back out at draft day 1. It's already night. People have got the calculators out. And they knew Jaden Daniels was going to go number 2, which is what we talked about last week. That's why they really were more into Drake May, because they knew Jaden Daniels wouldn't be around. They're going through the first 4 picks. So, like, I think right here they were saying, hey, if Rome Odunze or Malik Neighbors are there, they were taking them. Which is interesting because the Chargers really needed receiver, but Harbaugh, you can't really like argue with his ability to build a team, right? He's built the team every single place he's ever been. so like clearly Brian Dable really wanted Malik Neighbors. Like, they were asking, hey, is it Latham and Brian Dable's like, hey, just not Malik. So they were sitting back waiting. It's interesting. They were out here waiting to see if anybody wanted to try to jump up to 6. Ooh, the Colts. Yeah, 15. That's funny. So the Giants got calls from the Colts and from the Jets with plays to move back, and they turned both of those down and picked right there, and that makes sense because Brian Dable really wanted Malik Neighbors. That was a guy that they had rated really high on their board. Makes perfect sense. I think it's funny that anyone would have thought that they would have taken JJ McCarthy is lunacy. Like JJ McCarthy was far and be like way low on there. Yo, shout out to Joe Santos says Jalen Hyatt is amazing. Yo, okay, Joe. I don't know if I would throw the amazing on Jalen Hyatt just yet, but I think he has potential to be a really good football player. I'm loving watching him expand his route tree during training camp right now. It's been fun to watch. Mike Hester Bay, what's up? This is what's going on, Coaching Peoples. Everybody locking in. Appreciate you joining us, Mike. Giants are talking to Malik Neighbors. We actually see Malik Neighbors smile. Everybody's hugging in the, everybody's hugging in the war room. Like that's how it's supposed to be, right? That's how it goes. Yo, Malik Neighbors is drippy. That dude had on all the jewelry. I forgot about that. I was so locked in. I was writing so much on draft night. I forgot. Like he was jeweled out. I think it's funny that the NFL commissioner Roger Goodell gets so much like boos and stuff. He takes it in stride, and I mean, I guess it makes sense because you make $50 million a year, but the entire room standing up and clapping. Big smile on Joe Shane's face. Big smile on Malik Neighbors' face. Like, I think that's what it is, though, right? If we're reviewing, they had a chance to move down. They have a chance to move down with the Jets and with Indianapolis, excuse me. They didn't move down for either one. I think he said it for the Colts. They were too far away, right? And that makes sense. That makes sense. Joe, it says they didn't use him. They did use him. They used him a little bit, but he was a rookie and he was raw. So they used him probably about as much as they should have used him. Could they have thrown a few more deep passes? Absolutely. But you could say the same thing about Darius Slayton, who, by the way, everyone just conveniently forgets is on this team because they're just so in love with all of these new shiny toys. But don't mess around and have him get traded and or released, like waived, and watch him walk to a contender. That could be disastrous for Joe Shane and this regime. But I do like the progress of Jalen Hyatt. I think he's looked really good. I still would like to see him get in the weight room more. I like the way he's expanding the route tree. Need him to get in the weight room more. How do you feel about the offensive line since the signing of the new guy from the Raiders? I wasn't panicked about the offensive line before the signing of Van something. I forget his name. It eludes me at the moment. I'll figure it out. But yeah, I didn't feel bad about the Giants offensive line. What I was saying was that if you're thinking about how they need to get better, right? Van Roten. If you're looking to get better, then signing people who are good is the name of the game, right? You got to sign people who are good. So The fact that they added another legitimate starter is great. What now becomes the situation, right? What now becomes the situation is if you sign him, he's playing guard, right? So now if he's playing guard, does that mean that Illuminor is now your permanent tackle? And if he is your permanent tackle, does that mean you've given up on Evan Neal after 2 injury-plagued seasons? That is stupid. Like, absolutely, utterly stupid. Now, here's what I am going to be down with. If they say, hey, Illuminor is healthy, so he's going to take this job, and because Neal's not going to be ready for the season, he's going to back up and be that swing tackle, right? I can get down with that, because when we get to next year, you can then make a move, right? You can make a decision and fill Neal in somewhere where you want to. But if this is a we give up on him move, then this is stupid. This is stupid, and it's going to end bad, because it always ends bad when they give up on offensive line talent too early. Everybody talks about certain offensive linemen, and those guys all went other places and played really well. So I'm not in any type of peril about the offensive line. I think they're in great shape. I think with the adding of Van Roten, they're in great shape, and whatever they decide to do, whatever the combination ends up being, I like where they're at. Hard Knocks, they're in. Yeah, no, you definitely shouldn't be giving up on Neal. I think Jones has this year to show what he can do. And if he does well, he'll have that next year to show what he can do. But I think after these 2 years, regardless of how he plays, it's over for Jones in New York. And we definitely needed more. I shouldn't say we. The Giants definitely needed more linemen. And so anytime you can add starters, it's always a good thing. You can see them right now. They're taking videos and selfies of Malik Neighbors. He's in the building. This is day 2 of the NFL draft. It's funny, the mood on day 2 is way different than the mood on day 1. There's no ties. People still have jackets on, but no ties, right? So now they're talking about the day 2 stuff. John Mara's in the building. So they're showing the meeting that they had earlier in the day about what they wanted to attack, what they wanted to do early. So they wanted a defensive back in the second round, right? So they're talking about how it would have been kind of foolish to move up because they didn't have a lot of picks. And they're listening as all of the guys that they had as guys they wanted to go with are all getting plucked off the board. So it's interesting, right? So even though they were saying, "Hey, we're going with Cordell Flott," they had it in their mind to get another starting corner in the draft. Like they were looking to go cornerback again after all of the cornerbacks that they've taken with draft picks. They were ready to go cornerback again in the second round. Like the fact that they had to go defensive back again is enough, but they were going cornerback again. So then once Kool-Aid, McKinstry, and Lassiter were off the board, they turned their attention to safety, and that's where they came up on Nubin. What do you think? Like, do you think that the Giants have been using too many draft picks on defensive backs? Like, where else should they be using these second and third round draft picks? Remember, this year, second round draft pick, defensive back. Third round draft pick, defensive back. Like, where should they be using these second and third round draft picks at that they keep on taking with defensive backs and wide receivers? Because I keep thinking about it and I'm like, there's a lot of draft capital invested on the perimeter, right? And not a ton of draft capital, like high draft capital, invested in the middle, right? Not as much. Not as much as should be. People talk about the linemen and it's like, well, you just took Neil, right? You just took Neil. Andrew Thomas is in year 5. You just took Neil. I would have loved to have seen more. I mean, they definitely want to take linemen more. Joe, I don't necessarily disagree with you. They have to defend CD and AJ Brown and all the other wide receivers everywhere, right? But they've taken a bunch of DBs and still are having issues doing that. So, like, maybe the philosophy has to change. I don't know. Linebacker. That's interesting because I actually like they've used later round picks to address linebacker, but not really a bunch of or any early picks that second round, third round, type of pick. I wouldn't mind have seen them take a linebacker. I thought they needed a linebacker to upgrade over what they were getting next to Okereke. But from what I've seen during training camp, there's some guys. Mike, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you. You need to get to the quarterbacks. Um, so drafting edge rushers would be nice, right? Drafting edge rushers would be nice. I think they don't do enough of it. Stopping the run, interior defenders, they seem to get them late in the draft, but not as much early. So they definitely took Phillips with nickel in mind. Nubin was taken as a playmaking free safety. That was their thought process. Neither one of them were the first on their list. Those were Kool-Aid, McKinstry, and Lassiter. So yeah, interested in first 2 days. Like they haven't made any moves, but you see how it's played out. Day one, they got the guy that they targeted. Day two, they didn't get either one of the guys they targeted, but they had the next couple guys on their list and they went with them. Hey, a little Dexter Lawrence sighting coming out to talk to the rookies. Yeah, so um getting an opportunity to talk to the different players, that's big. I mean, I think that's awesome. So now you look at day three and you see how they're attacking day three. It's funny because that room now is full of people who are not dressed up. They all have on, they've got on like, their polos and their jackets. They don't have on like the blaze. Most of them don't have on blazers. They got on like jackets and hoodies and polos and zip ups, like and sweaters. The only person that's really in a suit out of everybody is Joe Shane. Joe Shane still has a suit on, but no tie. Like he's still no tie. And I support it, by the way. I support no tie all the time. I think the tie can many times just be overkill to the look. Now, there's sometimes where a tie looks fly. There's sometimes where you put the tie on and that tie really accentuates, it puts everything together. Then there's other times you're like, well, this tie doesn't make anything better. Like, that's just my own opinion about ties. And I love ties. I tie a really good double Windsor. They're talking about all of these defenders in the past that have been, third and fourth round and fifth round picks. Mark Bavaro was a fourth round pick, so now they're making the correlation um between him being a fourth round pick and Theo Johnson um talking about him. Brandon Brown talking again. Again, Brandon Brown, I think, has been the standout from Hard Knocks, right? Brandon Brown has been the guy who probably has been able to raise his star up the most based off of what he's done at Hard Knocks, or what we've seen him do during Hard Knocks. And everybody talking about how all of these people really like Theo Johnson. And again, when I look at Theo Johnson, I see a guy who has potential to be like a good chain mover. I just wish they were paying more attention to tight ends that already had the ability to come in and block somebody, right? Like, I get it. The new age is to have a tight end that can catch, but the ones that are special have some ability to block some people. Like even even Travis Kelsey, who's not the greatest run blocker in the world, will still get in you, right? He'll still get into you. He'll still get his body on you. He'll still try to block you. I think that's one of the things that you can't let go. Yeah, there was so many really good backs day 3. I was surprised of the back that they came out with. Exactly, Mike. Um, the 3 best tight ends in the game can do it all. They can run, they can catch, they can run after the catch, and they can block. They're talking about Tyrone Tracy Jr. and his explosive plays. And my issue is he was at Purdue, right? Like he was at Purdue. He was like he has some explosive plays, but he's not really even a true running back. Like he's learning the position, right? And if you're learning the position, if he's learning the position, right? The running back position is one of those where you can really like make some things happen. By the way, Brian Dable, he definitely outkicked the coverage with his wife. I mean, I guess it does pay to be an NFL head coach, or an NFL assistant coach. Joe Shane's wife, Joe Shane's not a bad looking dude though. Like let's keep it about. Joe Shane's not bad looking. So not surprising, that his wife is a good looking person. Brian Dable, like his wife being what she looks like on Hard Knocks, I'm just more like, shout out to you, Brian Dable. Outkick the coverage and keep it moving, right? They've got a cool little thing going on where they're looking at both wives of Dable and Shane, right? And they're talking, and they've known each other now for a while, obviously, because Joe Shane has been with Brian Dable at Buffalo, and now here with the Giants. So they take Tracy Jr. to take Musa or Mousa. Like that's one of there's a random Mike Kafka sighting too. Isn't it really weird what they've kind of done to Mike Kafka? Like it's almost like they're trying to blame everything last year on Mike Kafka because you don't see him anywhere. Like he was the offensive coordinator in 2022. And now in 2023, when everybody gets hurt, the offense isn't as consistent, and now it's all his fault. It's real weird. It's a real weird thing, right? I'll probably be talking about that tomorrow on my giant issue because I really don't understand that, and someone's going to have to explain it to me who maybe knows more than I do. Um, so like the two wives are at the place in the draft where everybody is hanging out. Um, I think that's a cool thing. Like they're all getting there. You see Joe Shane's got his glass of red wine in hand. All of the personnel people at the place sitting down, having drinks, talking about stuff over near the fire pit. Clearly, this is a culmination of a lot of work. And they're at Tommy's Tavern in Tap, by the way. I don't know if any of you guys have ever been there, but um Looks like a really nice place. I'm gonna have to check it out the next time I'm up there. So Joe Shane going to talk to the scouts about their performance. Who talks to the GM about his performance? It's hilarious to me. I'm thinking about that and I'm like, he's telling these people that I think you did a good job. I didn't think you did, whatever. But who who does it for him? Now I think it's now. By the way, I'm not criticizing because I think that it's a um I think that it's a great conversation to have, right? So I'm not saying that you shouldn't have these conversations with the scouts. Um, but I'm really, really more wondering like who does that for him? Because if I was the owner, I guess the owner would be the ones. If I'm the owner, I'm having a conversation with him like, hey, I told you how I felt about Saquon. You let Saquon go. I told you how I would feel about him going to like our rival team, and like you let him go. He went right to our rival team. Blah 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 blah. That kind of thing. You see Joe Shane celebrating his daughter's sixth birthday, I think. They do the little reveal of the uniforms. I'm glad that this is like a little fluff on the end, right? Like I'm glad that that wasn't like some major thing. Mike, I'm with you. They seem as if they're fading him out, like they're phasing him out, but also trying to save face while they're doing it. My problem is what has he really done to deserve it? Like it's not his fault that this offense was a mess last year. And the year before last, the offense wasn't a mess. So when he was coordinating the offense, when everybody was there, it wasn't a mess. It only became a mess when they had to start replacing all of these different people. And then it became a mess. I'm also still wondering about the Malik Neighbors Graham Gano thing. Like, did Gano did Gano give him the blessing on the number? Does anybody know? I because I don't really care about numbers like that, but it is weird that he was wearing Graham Gano's number. They're showing a shot of Dable standing at the top of the facility, looking out over into the fields. It really is a pretty facility the way they have it set up. I've been there a few times now. But that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That's all we've got. Kind of an climatic ending to Hard Knocks because we clearly know what happened. We know how it. But it is interesting. I did like the fact that they stayed pat when two teams called to try to trade down because they were entrenched on taking that wide receiver. And the only thing that was going to get them off that wide receiver was a knock me over type of deal. And so they did their due diligence. They waited. They listened to the couple of offers. A couple of offers weren't anything that made them go, oh, we need to take this. And, you know, they took the guy. Again, you gotta question taking 2 defensive backs in round 2 and round 3 after you already had those defensive backs on your team to be able to, like, why take like taking them just in general means to me that you don't value the picks that you made the year before and the year before that. So I think those are very interesting. Theo Johnson being the 4th round pick after taking another tight end with the 4th round pick 2 years ago, after letting a tight end walk in free agency that went on to be one of the better tight ends in the league. It's just weird. That's the thing that's going to have to be seen in this regime as we go forward. But like I was saying at the beginning, maybe some of you guys weren't on and you didn't rewind to the beginning to listen, but what Hard Knocks has done in this mode, and I think that the Giants will be the last team that you see that gives as much access as they've given, because other GMs are going to see this and go, yo, I don't really need all these people to be in my business like this, right? And so now everything that happens, we're going to be able to look at what Joe Schoen does and understand what his mindset was behind it. So now if it works, you can give him legitimate credit. If it doesn't work, you can give him legitimate blame, right? If all of these new offensive linemen are in there and the offensive line's still bad because they're not getting the job done, that's going to say something about Joe Schoen and his ability to identify talent, right? If they ball out, then that's going to say something about Joe Schoen and his ability to identify talent. It's been fantastic, though. It's been great. And I appreciate all of you, everybody that's hung out with me on this episode or episodes in the past. Shout out to Mike Hester Bay for hanging out with us. Shout out to Joe Santo for hanging out with us. And all the rest of you guys that are out there that have popped in and popped out, or either been in and just been sitting and listening and you know, maybe not talking, but I appreciate you all. It's going to do it for episode 5 watch party on the New York Giants on SI YouTube. Make sure that you are subscribing to the YouTube channel. We are trying to get to 2,000 subscribers before the beginning of before the beginning of the season. So before the first game. Also, every day, Monday through Friday, make sure you check out a Giant issue. Let me put this thing to the side so you can see the tees. And if you like the you know, the logo, if you think the logo tee would be nice, let me know. I might put a few together, you know, get a merch store going, but I might just give a few away. But definitely come hang out with me every day, Monday through Friday, a Giant issue. I'm Coach Gene Clemons. You can catch me anywhere at Gene Clemons or at Coach Gene Clemons. If you want, go and subscribe to the Coach Gene Clemons YouTube channel. Once the season starts, you're going to see a lot of Giants content that I don't do over here at on SI over there as well. So subscribe to the New York Giants on SI YouTube channel. Subscribe to Coach Gene Clemons. Make sure you go to New York Giants on SI for all of your Giants information. Check out our GGUs. I'm pretty sure I'll have a good, great, and ugly on our brand new edition on the offensive line tomorrow. So you're not going to want to miss that. Until next time, y'all stay blessed.